and I put on that movie, Will Smith movie, I Am Legend. I accidentally on my remote, I hit the wrong button and I put in the French soundtrack. And I wake up halfway through and I'm like, man, this is the most incredible French movie I've ever seen with Will Smith. But it was so good, man. It was so good. It's better in French. I Am Legend is better in French. I just want to put that out there. All right, we're back. We've got another episode, Forrest, and we got the Willy Wonka of cybersecurity here. That's you, man. And we got me. We got Heff here. I'm your Farley impersonator. I'm doing all the play-by-play. And if you like it, hit the like button. Of course, smash it. Just destroy it like Thor does. And we got our top stories, Forrest. The top stories, of course, is privacy and security concerns around RFID tags in tires. They're putting RFID tags in tires, Forrest.
Inescapable.
Yeah. We're going to do a little bit with the anonymous video that was sent to Elon Musk. And boy, is it spooky. We got a case study about phishing emails. So DHL receipt, if you get that phishing email, we're gonna show you a little case study about that. And breaches galore. I'm talking Volkswagen, far from groovin', and Fujifilm breach, all coming up next here on the SecurityMetrics News. All right, we're back. So we got this really cool threat intelligence news feed coming up, and you could subscribe to it. Forrest, there's only so many stories that we could talk about in a single podcast, and the challenge is we know there's viewers out there that would love to know more about what's going on. So if you want to, you can subscribe to that weekly news feed email that goes out. It's all the top cyber stories across all the different domains. So privacy, breaches that are happening, all the latest on malware, ransomware, all that stuff. So please subscribe to that. And it's kind of like an addendum to what we do here. You get more content, more stuff, more news, all in really easy, clickable news bites. So
yeah, the director's commentary version.
That's right. This is the DVD special edition. All right, Forrest, there's a lot of reports that come out every single week, and some of the reports are those kind of like must-read reports. The FireEye reports, the CrowdStrike reports, the Norton reports, the Cisco
Verizon,
Verizon DBIR report. This is one of those smaller reports, which comes from the Anti-Phishing Working Group, which is a consortium of a bunch of different companies. It's one of those reports that they put out. The last quarter report came out, so it's first quarter of 2021. What's the latest with phishing? And boy, Forrest, it's a doozy of a letter.
Yeah, it's not going away. That's for sure. It's the trend continues to climb.
Yeah, the phishing landscape, folks, the scope and the distribution of phishing is just unreal, and it's record levels, according to this report. The first quarter of 2021, last year it was a landmark numbers. I mean, Forrest, it was crazy. Last year, double the amount of phishing websites that were out there, according to last year. And this year, it seems like it's gotten even worse. All-time high, January 2021, 245,000 phishing websites. Out there.
Yeah, the sheer quantity of the different domains that are being registered is absolutely baffling. I thought some of the stats that they had in there were pretty interesting, especially like the two biggest registrars, domain registrars for phishing were Namecheap and the Public Domain Registry. They specifically called out those two organizations. Between those two, they accounted for more than half of the all domains, phishing domains that were registered.
Yeah, and Forrest, this is like the bottom of the numbers. So when you think about it, this is only stuff that's been reported. So really, there's probably a lot more phishing going on out there. What I found interesting in the report was the sectors being targeted. The financial institution sector was the most targeted for phishing, and then social media coming in at number 2 for the most amount of phishes out there, with like 23.6% of the attacks, something like that. So fascinating stuff. The other call out is the business email compromise attacks. And this is like a decade we've been talking about this, but the increased $85,000 in quarter one was the number of wire transfer requests. The average was 85,000. That was in quarter one of 2021. And Forrest, what I do want to call out though is what I like about this report is they highlight new tactics in phishing. So if you've not seen these, if you run a SOC or you're managing your email and you're saying, hey, I've never seen this type of phishing tactic. And the one that I thought was interesting was about the aging report scam. Have you heard this? Did you see this?
Yeah,
one?
yeah. It's pretty clever in how they execute it for sure. I thought that was a very novel approach.
Yeah, and the story goes, what the attacker's doing is they are impersonating your company's executive or they're impersonating your accounting department, and the attacker is requesting a copy of the aging report. And if you're not familiar with that, that's the report that comes from the accounting department. It lists all of the customer accounts that are pretty much, they haven't paid their bill. And what the attacker's doing is they're getting that report, the customer email, the address is the phone number, and the attacker then is targeting the customers of yours that have not paid their bill, and they're saying, hey, you got to pay your bill. So it's an interesting phishing scam from that perspective.
Adds an air of legitimacy, because I'm sure, various organizations are probably aware some extent, like, oh, crap, I hadn't paid that. Well, I better get that up to, get that balanced out. And just, there's already that sense of urgency.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very, very novel. And it kind of reminiscent of the with the ransomware, where they then are digging through the information that they have and then going to the organization that they're like, hey, we got this information of yours from this other breach. It's, just the way that they're able to chain those together is very clever.
Fascinating stuff. And Forrest, let's do a case study. We rarely do case studies. And obviously, we want to maintain the privacy of our clients. And this is one of those case studies that is probably going to blow your mind, because we had talked about it in a recent briefing. I think maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago, we talked about this DHL thing. And what the threat actors were doing is they were impersonating a DHL phishing email. And they're saying, hey, we'll put some examples up here on the screen for you. But the threat actor was impersonating a delivery. Hey, you want to schedule your delivery? Please click on the link. And they are so good, Forrest, at impersonating the link. They were able to actually include, a lookalike domain, and they were able to make the URL look so legit. So the other thing that you have to worry about is if you get a phishing email from DHL that says incoming package notification, click on it here. But in our case, what I want to explain is we had a situation, and we had a client who's one of their receptionists that actually clicked on this DHL phishing email. Do you remember what happened?
Yeah. It was pretty interesting seeing all the different things that it was trying to do once it was run. It went through and modified numerous different document files, a bunch of PDFs, just all kinds of things to essentially try to spread itself as far as it could. It's pretty nutty how these things operate, for sure.
Now, what we'll do is I'll have our director put up on the screen here an image that shows you everything, all the changes that happen when this malware gets activated and it starts beaconing out. So in this example, the receptionist, she got this DHL phishing email at the very end of the day, right before you're trying to leave the office, like 4:30, 4:45 in the afternoon. And I'm trying to rush out the door, and I got a DHL email. I click on it, and that activated the malware. From there, what you can see on the screen here is how insane it goes. And Forrest mentioned this, all the writing of the different files. And we're talking like writing of PDF files and doc files, and then getting into the registry keys, Forrest. It's just nuts how insane this goes in this Maltego diagram here.
Yeah, it's pretty. Fisher's gonna fish, right? At the end of the day, that's they're gonna try and target the humans, because the humans are flawed and easy to exploit. And you just distrust any attachments. If you ever have a question, run it by somebody else. Even if it's like, am I just being paranoid here? It's better to be paranoid than it is to get popped, for sure. So
what I found interesting too about this use case is all of the writing that happened and now all of the reading that's happened. So the attacker not only went in and then wrote to these 63 different files, all of which need to be looked at because, you're talking about some pretty important documents here. And then you got to concern yourself with all of the reading. What files did the attacker go in? And in this example, the attacker managed to get into 141 different file reads, which some of those documents are pretty sensitive stuff. So there you have it, folks. That's one of our case studies out there. And again, if you get a DHL phishing email, any phishing email for that matter, you need to think twice before you click because the damage that an employee can do is absolutely mind-boggling. And this case shows it. All right, Forrest, it's time for your favorite part of the program.
Yay!
It's time for gaslighting. DJ, play that sound effect for us. Danger. All right, so Forrest, we talk about gaslighting, and these are stories that just grind your gears, man. That just get you upset,
Yeah. Oh, this latest one. This is the Texas story. Yeah.
Yeah, the wall of shame.
Okay.
Texas, they're doing these passive aggressive data breach notifications. And that's the only way to call it. And what Texas, the legislature is doing is this is waiting at the time that we're recording this. The governor has not signed it yet. But what Texas is doing now is anytime a company gets breached in Texas, and if they have at least 250 Texas residents involved in the breach, they have to, they're going to put you up on the Texas Attorney General's website, your business. It'll be up on the Attorney General website.
Yeah, I just think this is completely the wrong approach. It just seems like it's hollow busy work. And ultimately, I think that webpage will probably get about as much attention as the California Prop 65 warnings that you see on everything. I think there needs to be more done about preventing the data from being in a position where it can be breached to begin with. Reduce the intake of all this data. But I really don't think they're gonna take that approach.
The focus here is on after the fact. The breach has already happened. The customers have been notified, and now you're just stabbing the wound even deeper. So how much of a play this will get is beyond me. But it's one of those things that is a gaslighting, passive aggressive. We're seeing more and more of this by states. So, all right, Forrest, you know what time it is? It's time for more gaslighting, Forrest. We can't get away from this, man.
I was hoping it was a hair past a freckle.
No, man, we got to talk about Apple Airtags for a minute. And, this is my big thing. I'm not into stalking, all right? But what I am into is stopping stalking, all right?
I'm not in. Thank you for that clarification.
No problem. But, the thing about these Apple Airtags, Forrest, they come out in April. All these folks are upset. People are, they're lighting up social media about, hey, man, the promotion of this thing I sneak this into somebody's belongings, I put this in Forrest's bag, in his computer bag, and he walks out the door, and then everywhere he's going because they're real small, they're coin sized. But the concern was the tracking capabilities of this sucker.
Yeah. The update apparently to address this kind of issue, there were two aspects of the update, I think.
Yep.
The first was that it was going to start beeping more frequently and more quickly. Instead of waiting like 3 days, now it's like 8 to 24 hours. It's like some random window.
Yep.
So that's a welcome improvement. I don't know if that's in practice, if that ends up being an annoyance. I don't know. I don't have them. The bigger thing in my mind was Apple's announcement that they were going to release an Android app for the Find My functionality and the Airtags. So that in my mind is the bigger kind of story out of all of this.
And that's the fact, if you are an Android user and you go out somewhere and somebody sneaks one of these things into your car, they put it underneath your windshield, they put it underneath one of your wipers or whatever, and you're using an Android phone, you're not going to potentially be able to hear that beep on the outside of your vehicle. So it's one of those things that people need to be aware of. And again, it's gaslighting. No doubt you should be concerned. So, all right, Forrest, let's switch gears. Let's talk about the most prominent data breaches. And guys, every week it's so hard to pick the top data breaches because we want to present to you lessons learned from these breaches. Some of them are still in the process of being investigated, and to be able to tell you the initial attack vector and the way the attribution is being done and who the bad guy is, it's kind of a challenge. So here we go. Let's get right into the first data breach this past week that was on the news is Volkswagen. Do you remember that commercial, Farfanugan? Were you too young for that?
I this came up in some other conversation, and I looked it up, and I was just like, okay.
This was the hottest marketing they've ever done. Volkswagen was like, Farfanugan. But they are far from grooving right now because of this data breach. 3.3 million customer records exposed, allegedly. We do know that it happened through a Volkswagen vendor. The dates, though, Forrest, is what's catching my eye because I've read the Attorney General letters that they received from Volkswagen and Audi, who's one of their subsidiaries, and the dates are kind of all over the place. The news media is saying it only happened for 2 years. I've seen some of the dates go far back as 2014 through 2019.
Yeah, so I think the date, like the records dated back to 2014. I think the retrieval of the records spanned that time frame, that 2 year time frame.
But what's interesting is the amount of data out there, and a lot of it, again, when you see these breaches, it's marketing and sales departments not securing their data oftentimes. So you talk about customer names, postal, email, all that stuff. But wait, Forrest, Billy Mays here for OxyClean, for Cyber OxyClean. There's more. 90,000 U.S. customers had sensitive data exposed, and that's the big thing too.
Yeah, and this was stuff like loan information, driver license information, social security numbers. It's all the crap that it just, man.
Yeah, nasty stuff. So we don't know a lot of the details yet. We're still waiting for more of the attribution and the vectors. But what's interesting, Forrest, is these car manufacturers and these car insurance companies. And that is where we want to kind of spin the gears for a moment, talk about lessons learned, because I don't know if the audience even remembers. Remember Geico about a month ago? In California?
Month and a half, somewhere thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah, Geico got breached. Do you remember also Metro Mile was another company that got breached. And this stuff is tied back to stealing customers' driver's licenses.
Yeah, and I think the vector there was they were trying to pivot towards unemployment benefits, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, just pretty scummy. And again, just underscores that companies and governments, in my opinion, really should be doing authentication. It needs a vast overhaul. Like it's the way that things work is just so inherently broken that we're depending on things that should not be used as identifiers. We're extrapolating that this has then been authorized and it's authentic, and it's not. We need a much better solution to it. One interesting practice that I came across. As far as like a proactive defense measure is basically just account squatting. Oh, yeah. So yeah. You go and you preemptively register for these types of services like the unemployment insurance website, things like that. You go and you preemptively set up your account so that you have control of that. So if somebody then tries to come along with your information down the line, they can't register, your account already exists, and you have control over that. It is within, everything's going to you already. So that's probably my big takeaway from all of this is try and get ahead of the puck, as you like to say.
Yeah. And the thing about this Geico breach is it mostly impacted California people. So you're talking about California folks only got the notice from Geico because they were the only ones impacted. So if you were a Geico user in a different state, you didn't even know about this breach happening. But again, they're applying for fraud benefits. They're applying for unemployment benefits. And that's where the challenge comes into play, is locking down that data. And Geico did not do that. And again, we're seeing it here with Volkswagen and Metro Mile. So that will continue. There's another breach making the news right now is Fujifilm. And this takes me back to my days going to Walmart. And Fujifilm was everywhere at Walmart for us. You go in and that's when you have to take your little film and you drop it off and you get it developed. But Fujifilm Yeah, have you ever done that?
Yeah, so I actually just had to show my sister how to put 35 millimeter film into a camera just last week. She was like, "How do you work this thing?" I was like, "Oh man,
What is this? What is this new technology?
from a different era."
All right, so this ransomware attack hit Fujifilm, and what we know about this story is June 4th, roughly around 10 a.m., Fujifilm said, employees, hey, turn off your computer. We're shutting down the servers. The billing system's going down. Sounds like a repeat of, we hear this so often.
Yeah.
They did not, Fujifilm said no evidence of any stolen data. They did not reveal the name of who the ransomware operator is. But we do know that the CEO of Intel, Vitaly Gremez, he told Bleeping Computer, he said, hey, some of the company's systems were infected last month by the Qbot Trojan. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah, it's interesting that you'd throw them under the bus like that. I don't know.
I thought that was weird too.
Yeah.
Like, why did you come out in the news and why did you have to make that comment?
Yeah.
I
don't know. Maybe there's some past tensions there. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe I don't know. It's always weird. The theories out there are wild, and that's the part of the challenge of the news is the theories and the attribution piece. So we do know that Prolock and Egregor ransomware as a service groups, they are known to have partnered with Qbot in the past. So there's that connection. We also know that Revil has been known to use Qbot as well. So there's some attribution there, but again, we'll wait and see. If we get updates, we'll share as well with you, all of you. So there are some other stories in the news. I know the TV stations are getting hit. That Orlando station, Pittsburgh station, owned by Cox Media Group. And, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but I do think it's interesting. If you guys know who Cox is, they put out that thing where you have Cox Internet. You know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about the data caps?
Yeah, the data caps.
Yeah,
and
you can
people are
think,
upset about that.
Yeah, Comcast for pioneering that innovation. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and I'm thinking maybe that's, I'm speculating here, folks. We don't have any attribution either yet as of this video being recorded. But, if you're going to go out there and you're going to put your company out there and put in these data cap type rules, you got to expect some heat. We don't, again, know who the attribution is, if it was an advanced persistent threat group or a criminal enterprise. We don't know yet. But I'm thinking, I found it interesting for us, all of the TV stations, not just these Cox stations, but Al Jazeera TV, they got hit. Well, their publishing group got hit. All these news media groups are being targeted right now, and there's a huge trend line around there. So, okay, Forrest, let's move on for a moment here. We got to talk about Carter's, and we got a few minutes left in the podcast. And Carter's, oh man, I love Carter's. It's like babies, kids, and you get clothes and stuff there. And shame, the walk of shame right now. Shortened URL exposure.
Yeah.
How does this happen in this day and age?
This one I thought was really interesting because it's a matter of like convenience that is then turned around and weaponized against you. And it's like, I hate URL shorteners to begin with. Mm-hmm. Like anytime I get one, I always throw it into a URL expander. It's like, hey, what is this actually taking me to?
Oh, that's a good security awareness point for the audience out there.
Yeah,
too.
Definitely. Don't trust any random bit.ly whatever, there's your mass quantities of URL shorteners out there, but just don't just blindly trust a link, especially like from a QR code. That's where I see more and more of them, and it was like, I don't know. Anyway. It's this whole idea that their shortened URLs were they lacked any kind of entropy, so it was just predictable, and they're persistent, and they would link to pages that didn't require any authentication and would then disclose things like delivery address, like physical addresses, names, all kinds of stuff. It's just like, man.
And it was the vendor that actually, this is all, the vendor is the one who would automatically send a customer a shortened URL when they're doing their purchase confirmation. And it's that lack of security force. And the lesson learned here is if you don't have authentication on that stuff, that's a killer. I mean, you got to have authentication to verify the customer. They actually, you probably read this too, the links never expired.
Yep.
How do you do that in this day and age?
Yeah. And any kind of sensitive information like that, in my opinion, should just be, kept within the bounds of the account. Sign into the website, get your information from there. If you have to have some kind of information like that, maybe do it in an email, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
These short links that never expired, it also allowed anyone to access these pages. They never expired. And then the fact that all the back end, the JSON records, all that stuff was part of that too. So you can't have this. And I saw that when I read the article, it said a simple oversight for us. I'm like, this is not a simple oversight. You got to get this stuff under control in this day and age.
Yep.
The other thing, Forrest, is these two ransomware service operators shutting down Avaddon and then also Paradise. 2 tickets to Paradise, Forrest.
Yeah.
But let's start with Avaddon first. They shut down, and I love when ransomware operators do this. They shut down and they release all their decryption keys.
Yeah. Just another lesson that it's like, never give up hope. If you're not going to pay it, like, hold on to it. Who knows? Maybe somebody will crack it, and maybe they'll just turn around and release it themselves as they iterate. It's a lot of the time they're just trying to play off of desperation and the immediacy.
Yeah.
So once it's kind of cooled off, and they're like, well, we're probably not going to get a ransomware payment for this, so we may as well just throw it out there.
Big time.
It's I wouldn't necessarily say good karma,
Right?
But it's at least not as scummy as they could have been.
What I found interesting in the Avaddon ransomware is Bleeping Computer. They got the files and they tested them to make sure they were legit. But what they received in those files was 2,934 decryption keys, which each key is corresponding to a specific victim. So now we know that Avaddon potentially had targeted as many as 2,934 victims as part of their thing. So, and we have seen this in the past where other ransomware operators release their decryption keys. We saw that with TeslaCrypt. We saw that with Shade and Ziggy and some others. So I know Paradise also in the news. Paradise ransomware, their source code was released on that hacking forum XSS.
Yep.
And that was pretty cool to see that get released. But Forrest, what caught my eye in that story is the source code. So, you're starting to inspect that source code of Paradise, and you find out that they use RSA encryption. You find that there's configuration builder. You find the encryptor. You find the decryptor as part of this package. So, and they found Russian comments sprinkled throughout the source code. Now they got attribution back to Russia. So fascinating stuff. All right, we got 2 more stories to go, and then we're going to wrap this sucker up. So first story is, of course, Anonymous sending out this video to Elon Musk last week. Did you happen to watch the video? Because it's spooky.
I did, yeah. And it's, I don't know. I thought it was pretty interesting. It's not very often that you see somebody trying to call out a very prominent figure like Musk. And so I don't know. I'm just gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it at that. No opinions one way or another.
Yeah, no opinions here either. I thought it was interesting though, the video itself, and of course, he changed his profile photo. Elon Musk did this, and he put out a little cryptic tweet. And depending on how you take it, the tweet said from Elon, "Don't kill what you hate, save what you love." So let's play a very quick clip. Director, if you can play a very quick clip of the Anonymous video.
Greetings, citizens of the world. This is a message from Anonymous for Elon Musk. For the past several years you have enjoyed one of the most favorable reputations of anyone in the billionaire class. It appears that your quest to save the world is more rooted in a superiority and savior complex than it is in actual concern for humanity. You may think you are the smartest person in the room, but now you have met your match. We are Anonymous. We are Legion. Expect us.
I hope you enjoyed that. One of the neat things about the Anonymous, that voice, and you see how creepy it is, if you ever have to do a tabletop exercise, Forrest, all right, one of the best things you can do is use that voice in your tabletop exercise to train people, because it gets the executives around that table like really into it, like, wow, this can really absolutely happen.
Some immersive role playing.
Yeah, immersive role playing with the voice of Anonymous. So, all right, here's our last story, folks, and that is we want to talk about these tires for a moment. And the tires situation It's wild, these RFIDs. And they're kind of on the back burner. You don't really hear much about RFID in the news, but they're embedding them in tires. The big companies like Goodyear and Michelin.
Yeah, it's pretty nutty. Just I recently went to buy a car and started digging into all the different ways that your car leaks information in this day and age, and it's nigh impossible to have a car that is truly private.
Forrest, why are they doing this then? Specifically in tires, because I've seen it in England now, where the discussion is around fleet services in these commercial environments, where they really want to know like the rubber history, the fitness of the tire, where the tire's been, how long it's been sitting. But what I'm hearing is, at some point you're going to see this in the commercial market for the everyday average user, and then potentially the insurance company saying, "We've got this data on you. Car accident, your tire was underinflated. Uh-oh."
Yeah. Part of it is, the NHTSA trying to track down these things. Like if somebody had a blowout on the freeway that ends up, causing massive pileup or something, having that attribution, or, if they're starting to see a certain batch comes back with a bunch of flaws,
A bunch of bad tires.
Then they're able to identify that and go back to the manufacturer and really hit them hard as far as their QA and things like that go. I like the intention. I really do. I just worry that they're not specifying any kind of
controls,
encryption.
There are working groups. There's these tire working groups that are working on, some sort of guidelines and best practices for this stuff. But yeah, you're right. I mean, what are they doing with that data is the question.
Yeah,
at some point,
and not just them, but others as well. Any random passerby can set up a sensor on the side of a freeway. I mean, heck, I can look 2 blocks west of my house and see the freeway. If I really wanted to, you can read RFID up to 90 feet away potentially, depending on your equipment. So it's not necessarily what the government is trying to do about it. It's more just, is this another potential vector for somebody else to come along and exploit?
Yeah. And what you'll see up on the screen, we'll have our director put up an image here of how does it work and then why are they doing it. But the focus that we want to have with this conversation before we wrap it up is the privacy stuff. And I feel like I'm Julie Chen Moonves for the Big Brother House, and here are your privacy and CIA triad security concerns. And Forrest, the bullets are long. I mean, you talk about these tags, okay? They're surrounded by rubber, they're surrounded by metal mesh structures. How accurate can they actually be? And would they get detuned as you're going down the highway? That's a concern that I would have.
Yeah, and does that potentially interfere? Maybe my concerns as far as the rage are unfounded because of that interference. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And you think about it, Forrest, they're taking the tag and they're burying it in the tag during the manufacturing process.
Yeah.
So there's no way to remove it if it gets broken or if it doesn't function correctly. That's a big concern. And I'm hearing stories about all these aftermarket companies. They're trying to get in there, and they're, the third-party security concerns. It's a big deal. That range, you talk about the range and the integrity of it's being used. But more importantly, Forrest, is the signal being intercepted. And I'm always worried about data in transit, data at rest. How is that looking from a tire perspective?
Yeah.
And nobody's talking about that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of stuff we need. That's the conversations we need to have. How much information, what kind of data is being transmitted? How secure is that data? A lot of unanswered questions before this stuff gets really rolled out nationally.
Yeah. The ever-present panopticon dystopia is just growing day by day, and the idea of becoming a potato farmer is getting more and more appealing.
Not appealing. Idaho potato farmer. That's Forrest. That'll be your next introduction there. Hey, Forrest, the other thing too is nobody's talking about the price of tires. Like, a $100 tire now becomes $300 if you want RFID. I could see the market fragmenting where you could buy tires at the lower end of the price with not all that tracking the RFID, and then I could see these higher end tires. But at some point, you'll see them all come together if the insurance companies are pushing for it and all these other players. So.
Yeah. Or if there's some kind of governmental mandate from NHTSA or whatever.
Lower the cost of manufacturing and so on. Folks, that's our show. We hope you had a good time with us. I know we love talking to you guys, and you know, there's so much comments out there. Let us know in the comments what you think about RFID tags being inserted into tires. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And of course, we do have that subscription. If you want to attach yourself to the threat intelligence feed, we'll get that email out to you every week. All the top stories, nice and easy. Just all the lists of the top stuff that's going out there. All right, thanks for subscribing, folks. We'll have a good one, and see you next time.
Take care.